Hey guys, welcome back to Vertical Momentum. I'm your host, Richard Kaufman, also known as the Comeback Coach. Guys, if you are a red-blooded American, this episode is for you. My brother Ryan is a country music star. He's a veteran actor. He does it all. He's a Swiss Army knife of positivity. This is going to be an amazing episode. I'm so grateful. Aaron from Point of Impact. I love you, brother. Aaron Hale, thank you for setting this up. And also Celsius Energy Drink. Thank you for sponsoring this show. Ryan, my brother, welcome to the show.
Man, I appreciate you having me. It was great to get on Aaron's podcast and chat with him a bit. And then, the recommendation. That's what I love about the veteran community or the hero community, as I like to call it, because it's not, since I've gotten out of the military, it's not just veterans, law enforcement, first responders, military, the hero community, as I call it. The networking is incredible. You always get to meet amazing people, and I'm honored to be on your podcast as well.
I'm grateful for you to be here. And like I said before we got on the show, I think I found my new favorite song, No Second Chance. It's got to be one of my favorite songs. I think I listened to it 6 times before we even got on today. So if your YouTube numbers have gone up, I take credit for that.
Right on.
And I also love Burn. I'm a big Burn fan too. So I love all your music. So first question right out of the gate, what is your definition of resiliency?
Oh, man, to narrow that down to one thing, I think is extremely difficult, but every one of us have to overcome obstacles in life, whether it be a traumatic situation, loss. Most of the folks that watch this, as you told me, your demographic is predominantly the hero community. At one time or another, have experienced something that they carry around with them. But the resiliency, to me, is the ability to shoulder that burden and not let it define you in a way that causes you to falter. To use that burden or that loss or that moment that you carry around with you to fuel your fire to want to be successful and do amazing things. It's one of the things that I speak about when I do my motivational speaking as well, that overcoming those obstacles. I look at resilience for me as seeing a speed bump in life, or a roadblock in life that's right in front of you, and blowing through that roadblock over that speed bump and blowing out your suspension and moving forward with a perspective of looking at that could hold you down as fuel to your fire to want to be successful.
Now, growing up as a member of a family of 11, I'm sure you had to be pretty resilient growing up. So give us a quick down and dirty about where'd you come from, where'd you grow up, and how did you become such a force like you are today?
Well, sometime in 1972, my mom and my dad got together in the back seat. I don't know. Anyway, I'm kidding.
That's a country song right there. That's a
I got I got a sick sense of humor. I like to make jokes and whatnot. I grew up in all over Florida, but I finished, I would say, from elementary school to high school, graduating in Citrus County, West Central Florida, about 50 miles west of Orlando. And my house was in Floral City, and I graduated from Citrus High School in Inverness, but went in the Army straight out of high school. I followed in my 2 older brothers' footsteps, and essentially we have a family of military history. Grandfather being in World War II as a belly gunner, my dad being a Marine, my oldest brother Steve being a aviator in the United States Army after being a Ranger in a Ranger Regiment, and then Aaron, my older brother, following in his footsteps. In the Ranger Regiment, 3rd to 75th, and getting out, going back into flight school and becoming an aviator. And I went as a military intelligence analyst straight out of high school and did 9 years as a military intelligence analyst, then transitioned to become a warrant officer myself, and became a Black Hawk aviator, and went through warrant officer candidate school and flight school. Was there with my brother for a lot of my flight school, which was awesome, my brother Aaron. And we were the first 3 brothers when I graduated flight school to fly as warrant officers, brothers at the same time in the Army. So it's kind of cool to make that history in Army aviation, which was, I was told by the historians there at the Army Aviation Museum. But started chasing or started singing karaoke and singing competitions in flight school because I was broke. I was going through a divorce in the middle of flight school and was broke, and found out it was something I loved to do, and I was winning. It helped me pay my bills. I'd win a television and go hawk it off for a couple $100, or I'd win win some money in the karaoke competitions, and then was restationed to Germany in 2000, I believe it was. Beginning of 2001 and of 2000, and went to Iraq in 2003. Was my brother? I didn't know he was deployed. I was with the 1st Armored Division. He actually got deployed in 2003 later on, and he was with the 82nd Airborne. Flying Kiowas over there, and he was a cancer survivor. Was non-deployable. Got a waiver to be deployed. He didn't want to be left behind. Didn't want to have his brothers go to combat, because the backstory here, real quick. Aaron was he was a ranger in Somalia in the ambush in Mogadishu that everybody knew about. Black Hawk Down was made after the actual event. He was one of the rangers on the ground. Actually, the only non-commissioned officer did get shot in the whole thing, which was kind of crazy. His words. Anyway, he was a cancer survivor, non-deployable, and had to get bi-monthly blood screenings for that cancer as part of his waiver to be deployed. Make sure the cancer didn't come back. And on January 8th in 2004, he was the passenger in a medevac helicopter on the way to one of those bi-monthly blood screenings when it was shot down, and he was killed in action with everybody on board. And I came home from combat to his funeral. And at that point, the Sole Survivor Act kicked in, because although Steve, my oldest brother, is my oldest brother, he is my half-brother by adoption, because Aaron was my only full-blood sibling to a different biological father. My dad that raised us, he's the greatest man I've ever known. But my biological father, Aaron, I was the sole surviving son from my biological father. In that Sole Survivor Act, the Saving Private Ryan came into play. Plus, there was a provision in the Sole Survivor Act that says that if your 2 siblings are in combat, or more than one sibling is in combat, and one of the siblings are killed in action, you're no longer required to be deployed. So at that point, I got restationed as a rear detachment in Germany. A rear detachment. I think I was the XO for a minute, but anyway, spent a few months in Germany, then was restationed to Fort Rucker as the attack officer and warrant officer candidate school, and then moved on to being an academic instructor. And during that time as attack officer, between that and becoming an academic instructor near the end of it, I competed the American Idol's version of the military, which was on military installations, called the Military Idol, and I got runner-up. And I always say that everything happens for a reason, good, bad, or indifferent. And although I got runner-up, when the winner went to the national championships, I actually got to open up for Daryl Worley and Tracy Lawrence on the Fort Rutgers 50th anniversary celebration. And that day, I met the Army band had a rock band, and I met members of the rock band because they were playing, and they actually had shows off post. And I already had a marketing plan put together. I already had all this. I just didn't know how to get into the business and get into the bars and all that kind of stuff. But I know you had to have a band, and they needed a country music lead singer. So I said, well, hey, do you guys mind changing your band? I've got all this marketing stuff put together. I'm ready to rock and roll. And they said, sure. And that was on a Saturday. And my first show was that next Thursday with them. And it just escalated from there. 6 months every 6 months, I set goals to move to larger clubs, into the larger scene. Was traveling back and forth to Nashville to network and try and get into the writing scene, but getting to know folks up in Nashville. And and then I was doing the club scene, large club scene, festival scene. And I mean, that was, I think, what was that year? That was 2005. And then in 2007, I actually opened again for my first real major concert, open for Montgomery Gentry and Trace Atkins, which was kind of cool. And never looked back from there. Just, started trucking it. And then in 2012, retired from the military, moved up to Nashville full time for music. And my safety net, fortunately, was a military retirement check. But went from being a Black Hawk aviator, an officer in the Army, to going to college full time, being a bar back and a personal trainer, to chase this crazy dream in country music in my brother's honor. And, that obviously we could talk about Randy, my brother-in-law. That was in 2013 as well, but that's down the line. A lot of stuff happened between moving to Nashville and in 2013 because we released Crank It, my first music video, in 2012. My brother-in-law, Randy Billings, was killed in 2013. He was piloting a Black Hawk in Afghanistan. And we became a 2-time Gold Star family at that point. And then I started chasing and streaming both their honors. And it's been an incredible fuel to my fire to have them in my corner when things get rough, to know that I still have a voice and they don't, and I'll continue using mine. So it's been an incredible, I mean, there's so much more to happen after that, but I'll talk for 30 minutes and you won't get to ask me anything else, or it won't be a two-way conversation. So I'll stop when Burn came out in 2016 and I got discovered by the Professional Bull Riders. But there was so much stuff that even happened between 2013 and 2016 that, I mean, the Grand Ole Opry with Charlie Daniels, the Ryman Auditorium, Bridgestone Arena, all these crazy things that happened all in a very short time frame. So anyway, that's pretty much the summary of how things, and there's so much more that happened after I got picked up by the PBR. But yeah, I could be here all day talking about that. So,
well, I can listen to you talk. I can listen to you read the dictionary to me, brother. So I'm just having a good time. I just love this conversation. But take us back, because a lot of us deal with survivor's guilt, and a lot of us struggle with that. Whether we lose a blood brother or a brother by choice. What was that like? Losing a blood brother, and then then your brother-in-law, a couple years later. So how did that work on your psyche at this time?
It destroyed me. I mean, when Aaron died, if you could imagine, I took my own path, but it kind of paralleled Aaron's. But growing up as kids, I followed in his footsteps in everything that he did. Essentially, he was my standard of performance in life. Everything that he accomplished, if I could beat that, I knew that I did well. We ran track and cross country together. And all of his times were my standard of performance. And if I beat him, I felt that I did well. And then in the military, get his promotion rate, when he got promoted, the things that he did, he was much more of a hardcore badass than I was. I went military intelligence. He went into the Ranger Regiment. So I never tried to keep up with that side of things, because it was just not the way. I wasn't built the same way he was built. And, and in the flight school thing as well, all of that, everything that everybody that knew Aaron respected him and had nothing but great things to say. And he followed in Steve's footsteps. So I was the third in the row of following in people's footsteps, and I did take my own path to go to Black Hawks. Both Steve and Aaron flew Kiowas. But Steve actually was the one that talked me into flying Black Hawks because of many different reasons. We did a pros and cons list on which aircraft to pick. I was fortunate to be fourth in my class for aircraft selection, graduated top of my class. Second for Black Hawk, so I got to pick where I wanted to be stationed. But it was, when you lose somebody like that, especially he was a superhero. Like I said, the only non-commissioned officer to not get shot in Somalia. Fourth in the best Ranger competition with Jeff Struker 2 years in a row. I got messages from folks that said for the first time in their time in combat that they actually questioned their own mortality, because if it could happen to somebody like Aaron, who was this all-American superhero to everybody that knew him, it could happen to them. And that included the medics that discovered his body on the battlefield, that had seen other crashes and had recovered, folks off the battlefield. When they saw it happen to him, it was a clear message that they really could be taken as well. But for me, my family was shattered by the loss. Everybody deals with grief differently. I went to a really bad place for a couple of years. I pushed everybody away. I couldn't keep a solid relationship with anybody. I had very few close friends. My brother, who was the second greatest man I've ever known, even he and our relationship was strained because the way I was dealing with grief. And it really was because I didn't know how to. I'd never lost somebody, especially like that. My grandfather died. I mean, but when it's your grandfather, those, the old age and whatnot, not somebody who's 30, in their 30s and was, you've known him all your life. It was this whole different situation. And I made a lot of bad decisions, but one of the best decisions that I made, and I talk about this when I do my motivational speaking as well, is that everybody who loses somebody, or everybody who's been in a situation of loss, and I can give you the loss perspective. The moment that I decided, and everybody's going to make it at their own time, but the moment that I decided to live my life in his honor, as opposed to letting that loss define me as a human being and bring me down and carry that weight with me, was the moment a million pounds got lifted off my shoulders. It was a burden that I chose to carry myself. I said, at the beginning, like, I don't want to love him. I don't want to hurt any less because I don't want to feel as if I love him any less. Well, the hurt doesn't have to be the way that you deal with it. And music was my escape from that. Music was my outlet to be able to know that every time, I made a promise to myself that every time I was going to stand on stage that I would tell his story so that his sacrifice would not be forgotten. And every single time I did that, just a little bit of healing happened. And to my best, the best advice that I can give to somebody when it comes to loss is really try to create that moment where you can make the decision to live your life in their honor. And that, as far as the survivor guilt was concerned, I mean, I kept my kids out of the spotlight in my entire music career because I just didn't want them to have to deal with the repercussions of me chasing a dream and being in the spotlight in the music business. But also, my political perspective on things, my patriotic perspective on things that now has somehow become political. I didn't want them to be anywhere around that, and I kept them out of it. And I don't tell a lot of people that I even have kids, simply because, first off, it's none of their business. But my brother had children that were going to have to grow up without their father, and a good man, and a good, someone who loved his kids. And to me, I felt like they were going to miss out on that, and it was. I haven't been a great father to my kids. The Army took me away from them for quite some time, and I know that, and that's something I openly admit. A lot of other people have differences of opinion about that, but to me, as a father, I know I could have been a much better father than my kids, and they didn't deserve not having a father. And yeah, the survivor's guilt is there, or was there. But I had to come to the realization that that guilt is not going to do anything but impede me from making a difference in this, continuing to make a difference in this world. It's going to hold me back from finding success and giving back to the hero community and being able to prove that you can overcome these obstacles and find success in life in multiple ways, either whether it being an entrepreneur with my partner brands or in country music, or being a songwriter, or being a motivational speaker, or just changing people's lives and being able to give back to the hero community. That guilt was something that I had to let go of. First off, it wasn't my fault that I made it back and he didn't. Had to come to that realization. It's not my fault that happened. But a lot of people feel that it is, especially if you're there. I wasn't there when that happened. But there are a lot of folks in the hero community that are there when their partner is taken from them, they're there when, a buddy is in combat, you're in combat, and you always feel like there's something that you could have done to save them. But like I said, everything happens for a reason, good, bad, or indifferent. And you have a choice. You have a voice. They don't anymore. So you have a choice to make a difference, and you have a choice to move forward. They don't anymore. And you have a voice. You can speak. You can talk to people and deal with the things they don't have that ability anymore. Their voices were silenced, and they're not moving forward in life anymore, obviously. So I chose to live my life in Aaron's honor. And then when Randy was killed in action, I chose to add that to my fuel, to my fire to be successful. And if anybody out there can look at my situation and see he could do it. I mean, I still get emotional about this, folks. I mean, I still, every time that I talk about my brother-in-law, I have to hold back tears if I want to not sound like two cats fighting in a water bucket. I get on stage and I cry when I sing the song that I wrote for my brother. And it's tough to get through that song every single time. But it's important for me to tell his story, and it's important for me to live in his honor. And the badasses that they both were, and the amazing pilots that they both were, neither one of them would want me to let their loss hold me back from being the best possible person and the best possible country music artist or the best possible motivational speaker, whatever it may be, but be the best that I possibly can be. And that's the way that I choose to look at it. And I think that anybody out there, if you decide for yourself to look at it the same way, I really feel that you're gonna find your own resilience in life. And I think that you'll have a much, much happier life if you do so.
I love it. And I love the way you're talking about decisions, because the shirt that I wear every time I'm on camera, it says, "Today I decide."
Yep.
I make the decisions whether I'm going to be a victim or I'm going to be a victor. I make
Right.
the decisions every day. Now, you know, we're filming this in September, I think 24th. And we just lost Charlie Kirk. And, you know, the day that happened, I think everybody hugged their children a little bit tighter. Everybody hugged their wives a little bit tighter. And I think America has to get back to center again. So, you lean the same way I lean. We're both here. But I think we need to come together. Like for me, 9/11 changed my world. It saved my life, 9/11. But I think one of the greatest days in history was September 12th, 2001, because we were all Americans. There was no, Black America. We sold out of flags within the first hour in our country, and we became one country again. Don't you think that we need to become one country again?
Absolutely. I mean, but the thing that really, really frustrates me now more than ever is that the division doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. And why does it take what happened on September 11th to galvanize a country? And in today's day and age, back then it took something like that to galvanize a country. But we have the choice to be galvanized or be divided. And it doesn't matter what the subject is. I don't understand how people can see things 180 degrees differently with pretty much everything when it comes to politics or patriotism or whatever it may be. It seems like there's that division's there. And a lot of folks would go on my page and say that I'm stoking the division because I point out the hypocrisy, and I point out the things that don't make sense, the things that just aren't logical, the things that really are the cause of it, that are just completely insane. I that's what I try to point out. It's like, how does this make sense to you? And if you're doing this, why? Like, what is the logical explanation for it? I don't need an emotional explanation. Give me a logical explanation, because the flags that were put on porches on September 12th, and when you drove anywhere, in the United States after that, you saw a united. You just saw an American assassinated in cold blood in public, and the response could not have been more vicious and vitriolic and hateful. When you would think something like that would galvanize people but I think that the social media has definitely played a massive role in this, because a 30-second soundbite of somebody's hour-long conversation or debate with somebody can be taken out of context and taken for truth. And there are folks out there that are getting paid to stoke the flames. They're in the division. I've always been happy to have a legitimate conversation with somebody. I'm not willing to have a conversation with somebody who is completely oblivious to any kind of I'll throw out the facts, and if somebody can't take contextual fact and understand that there's a reality behind it, the conversation is moot. The point is moot at that point. It just really, it's difficult. And I would much rather try to have constructive conversations with people who are willing to do what Charlie Kirk did. Get people on a microphone in front of you, have constructive dialogue between two individuals that completely disagree, because he was changing hearts and minds, because he was providing truth and providing an opportunity for people to take the information that he gave, do their own research, and realize that maybe they weren't willing to see the other side of the story, when we all know that there are two sides of the story and the truth is somewhere in between. But they weren't willing to listen to the other side of the story until they listened to him provide contextual fact and logical reasoning, and then provide the resources for them to be able to look up the information they do, so they could do their own research and come to their own conclusions. And I think that's why he was so impactful, because he did provide a platform for people. He didn't shut people down. He didn't just tell somebody to shut up when he disagreed with him or when they came at him with hate. And that's what I don't think that we've seen a single figure other than Trump. We haven't seen a single figure in modern history who has created such a change in this country. And whether it be a divisive change because the way that the left or right looks at it, whatever it may be, where our country was going to and where it's already just in a few months come back to, the division is still there, but the success of this country is getting back to where it needs to be. But Charlie was, he was incredible in a different way, because he didn't come up the divisive rhetoric, quote unquote, that you hear that he came across with was not at all divisive if you actually listened to everything that he said when he debated with somebody, when he asked them questions, when he denounced racism, when he denounced white supremacy, when he denounced hate, when he gave those people an opportunity, even when the folks that were behind him that supported Charlie were booing for that individual, when he asked them to calm down so that he could hear the opposing perspective. I believe that we've lost that. And my thought is, based off of where we are now in society, if another 9/11 happened, which essentially, if you look at COVID, it was that, where we should all be galvanized together, because all Americans, no matter who you were voting for, the people that were dying were from all backgrounds and all ethnicities and both sides of the aisle. It was an indiscriminate killer. And on 9/11, that was an indiscriminate killer as well. No matter what your conspiracy theories are, no matter who, if anybody thinks the government was behind it or they don't, or whatever it is, it still was an indiscriminate mass murder of all backgrounds and ethnicities in this country. And that galvanizes. But in today's day and age, I legitimately think if something, because you got to see it with COVID, everything was blamed on somebody, not the fact that we had hundreds of thousands of people dying. Everybody was blaming somebody else for something, as opposed to coming together and saying, hey, we need to be on the right side of this, and that right side of it is survival. Whatever it may be, we can't be turning against our fellow Americans and saying that people need to be segregated. We can't be turning against our fellow Americans and saying that they deserve to die because of their political perspective. I just don't know what it would take for us to get back to the same place we were on September 12th. And that's so unfortunate. It really is. Because if somebody's not coming at me, I'm willing to have a conversation. If somebody's not coming at me and I have to be on the defensive, I'm willing to have a productive conversation with that individual. But even then, if I ask productive questions and it's just hate and there's no conversation, because you even saw Charlie on several occasions have to shut the conversation down just because they weren't willing to listen. And all they were coming back at him with was hate and vitriol. He still came back with them. And even at the end of it all, I love you and I'll pray for you. I love you and I hope you change your mind. I'll pray for you. That's how we always finish his conversations, no matter what the conversation was. I just don't see what it's going to take for us to get back to that point. It has to be a cataclysmic event, unfortunately. It has to be something like that, I believe. And I just hope that never has to happen. I mean, I don't know.
I grew up in New Jersey, but I became a man when I moved down south. I moved down to South Carolina. I was down there for 10 years, and that's when I became a man. But there's something about the South. I'm a big NASCAR guy. I'm a big junior. I'm a big Dale Senior guy. I used to love going to the races, and it was amazing. If you even tried to take a knee at a NASCAR race, you were not going to make it home.
And the Western culture as well.
Yep, and they're so pro-America. Not even political left or right. They're just the red, white, and blue. That's why I named this show Red, White, and True. I think that's where we need to get back to, where it's no longer blue or it's no longer red. It's red, white, and blue, right?
Well, if there's anything I could say, I mean, when I got picked up to entertain for the professional bull riders, I knew very little about the Western culture at that time. I was picked up as an entertainer. I was picked up because of my background. I was picked up because of my story and obviously my music and performance ability. They took all that into account. I was picked up to honor our heroes across the nation. And you want to talk about a steep learning curve about the Western culture, because I got partnered with bull riders for radio interviews and television interviews. And I knew I had to learn about the sport as quickly as I possibly could, because I knew nothing about the sport. And I embraced it and loved every minute of it, because the Western culture, it's about, there are concrete right and wrongs. There are gray areas in some things, but there are concrete right and wrongs. There's mutual respect and decency. There's sportsmanship. There's grit. There's determination. There's hard work. And you get to see all that with the bull riders and the stock contractors and how they put on those events, and the people that were, that were actually putting the events together, the logistics of it. You just got grassroots, blue collar, Western culture work, normal people. They took their hats off. They take their hats off when they shake a woman's hand or are introduced to a woman. Those traditional cultural values of mutual respect. And I'll give you a real quick story on that. And then I'll come back to what I mean about why I'm getting into the Western culture side of this. So as a country music artist, when I first, if everybody watches Burn, when I first got into country music, the 80s, and it still is, but my background is 80s rock influence. I grew up listening to 80s rock. I also grew up listening to late 70s rock with Steve, the Steve Miller Band, the Eagles, Journey, all those amazing bands from back in the 70s and early 80s. And then I grew into the hair band music as well, like the Bon Jovis and Guns N' Roses and Metallicas. So a lot of my musical influence is those 80s rock bands. If you listen to Burn, you can clearly hear 80s rock in there. If you listen to Crank It, clearly hear 80s rock in there. There's always some kind of a soaring guitar solo. I love guitar solos. I love having two badass guitarists on stage with me that both can solo, so we can battle off in the live shows. Anyway, if you watch Burn, I have a curved bill, bent down front cowboy hat. And that's when I started in country music, because, the Bret Michaels of, look and that kind of stuff, that was kind of my thing. I was going to infuse the 80s rock in it. I had that 80s rock look. Burn, I had that. Well, when I got I was down in Texas, and a guy named Larry Mahan, 6-time world champion cowboy, just like one of the names of names in the professional bull riders in the Hall of Fame. Went to an event with him, and I had that cowboy hat on, and I just got picked up by the PBR, so I got invited to this event and met him, and he said, first thing he said to me, he's like, son, we need to get you a new hat, because he's got his own cowboy hat line and all that kind of stuff. So he sent me a hat, and he said the first hat he sent me, it was like a 10X of his Onyx. I think it was called the Onyx hat. Anyway, it had a straight bill on it. And a lot of folks don't know this, but in the Western culture, usually the straight bill wearers are ranchers, and they're legit cowboys. Like anybody that's wearing a straight bill on a cowboy hat lives that lifestyle. And I didn't. And I had the bent cowboy hat on a bill and that kind of stuff. And I called Mr. Mahan up, and I said, Mr. Mahan, I mean, absolutely no disrespect to you. I said, but I'm not a cowboy. I'm an entertainer. I've never lived a Western lifestyle. I've and the hat you sent me has a flat bill on it. And I said, are you okay if I steam this hat and bend and give it a rounded bill? And he said, son, you do you. He said, and if there's anything that you're going to know is that if you try to fake the funk in front of the Western culture, they're going to see clean through it. And I didn't want to do that. I wasn't going to be who I wasn't. And I've said that in many interviews. And Flint Rasmussen, who used to be the I guess they would call him clowns, but he's the official entertainer for the PBR from the beginning. And he said that was the one thing that one of the things he respected about me, because I wasn't trying to be something contrived. I was just being me. But I loved the cowboy hat. I'd always worn a cowboy hat. It was just a Western style cowboy hat. And then, so anyway, but that respect, that mutual respect of not wanting to disrespect a culture, that shows nothing but respect to each other, that the grit and determination, the things that they know. I mean, I watched Yellowstone and all the Yellowstone, series, and sure, some of that is, soap opera-ish, but the culture there's a lot of that culture and a lot of the things that they say in there that Taylor Sheridan knows. Like he takes pride in those kind of things. And I got to learn that. And the point behind me telling that story and having that mutual respect was I was never in that culture, but the folks embraced me in that culture. And then I also respected that culture. I think that every single person who disagrees with conservative values or feels that they're progressive needs to spend at least a month on a dude ranch, needs to spend at least a month isolated away from the rest of the garbage that's out there right now and see what the Western culture is about. Like you said, in the South, I guarantee you that on the NASCAR side of things, that you could go into an event, and if you're not going into a NASCAR event or a rodeo or anything in the South, a monster truck rally, you name it, a Trump rally, I guarantee you, if you said, I'm a liberal, but I wanted to come and see what you're doing, you've seen it time and time again on social media. You'll be embraced with open arms. Yes, please, come on in. You're not going to get attacked by people. You're not going to get there, but it's not the same the other way around. And we've seen that time and time again. You just got to see on the HBCU campus, they were trying to do the same thing that Charlie Kirk was doing, and they got ran off because they're trying to have constructive dialogue. It's all over social media. And it's unfortunate that it's that way. But if anybody would take an opportunity, so you know what, I'm just going to open my mind for a minute, and I'm going to get into. I want to see what this is about, and go spend some time in those cultures, and their eyes would open up immensely, and that's where the unity, I think, could come into play. It's just because I wish that I could go onto an HBCU campus or a liberal campus and know that I'm not going to be run off like that. But you're seeing that, And I have nothing against HBC. I mean, God, goodness gracious, my brother died with all races. I served with all races. I got an immense amount of respect for the meritocracy of the folks that I served next to that were great human beings, no matter the skin color, no matter the background. And I just grew up with that. I mean, I grew up in poverty. Like, I wouldn't say poverty. We were poor. I mean, I guess it would be considered poverty. Like, we were poor, and I had friends I was friends with everybody in school. But the way things have shifted today, it's like nobody's willing to open up their minds and listen to anything, because the moment that somebody, Trump says something, or a liberal politician says something, it automatically stokes division. And you're right, brother. You said it at the beginning. Like, I really wish that we could get back to that day of September 12th. But I don't know what it's going to take. I really don't.
One thing I love, anytime I'm walking down the street, and if I see somebody wearing a hat and the bill has been shaped, I'm pretty much going to look at them. It's either military, first responder. Anytime because I always wear a hat, I always wear a beanie, I always wear, and anytime I see a flat bill, I'm like, that's not military. It's not a first responder. I can pretty much guarantee that. But one thing, and I think, like, when I first messaged you and Aaron put us together, I called you brother right off the bat. I don't know you from Adam, but because you served, you raised your right hand, you're my brother. And I think that's one great thing about the military is we're all brothers and sisters, and we all bleed green. It's not the red. We're all brothers and sisters when you meet another military personnel. So I think that still gives me hope that we can still have that, because that's mostly part of what the military is still like.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I would agree to you to a certain extent, but there are a lot of shitbags in the military too, and and we're getting to see. I mean, the number of folks in the military that were celebrating Charlie Kirk's death. I posted about that on my Instagram wall. That was the last thing I made I made a statement first off to let people know who I was, because there are a lot of folks that had not been on my page, and then talking about the real situation that has happened. But then, I mean, the one thing about our community as well is we're willing to call each other out on bullshit. Like, we're willing to, not only are we willing to love on each other and be loyal to each other, but we're also willing to call it, I mean, because if you're not being honest with your brother and sister in arms, what does that make you? How does that make you a better person if you're not being honest with them? But I never thought legitimately with my 21 years in the military, knowing, I mean, I served underneath 4 presidents. I got to see the left and the right as far as politics were concerned when it came to presidents, being our commander in chief. I never saw this level of division, even in the military, but to see military service members actively celebrate the assassination of a fellow American, I never thought I would see that. And once again, I use my platform to make sure we're calling it out on it. And I think we're just in a different day and age where things are just not the way that they. I don't know what happened and how it happened. It was like a systematic. I hate using the word brainwashing because it's such a token phrase, but a systematic change in the way people think about things, in the loss of humanity that has happened over the last, decade, I guess it would be. I mean, it's mind blowing to me. So, I mean, I don't know. I think, once again, go back to the Charlie Kirk thing. I think one of the things why so many people were impacted by that assassination was because he legitimately was bringing humanity back into this world. He was legitimately bringing constructive dialogue back into this world, as opposed to the hate and vitriol. And to see a good man like that go down, I think that's one of the main reasons why this has impacted so many people to action, like move people to action, as opposed to now sitting back, because it's kind of like, well, I feel I'm a good person. I feel I have an honorable character. I feel like I'm an honest person. I feel like I'm trying to do the right thing in life, and I'm being attacked for it on a day-to-day basis. Suicide, or death threats, suicide. I mean, not suicide myself threats. All those kind of things is like, and I'm being attacked for trying to do the right thing. And I think seeing that someone like Charlie, who was trying to do the right thing by providing a platform for both sides to speak, it just made me want to keep my mouth open even more, to speak louder, to be more involved in the conversations that matter to everyday Americans, and less involved in the conversations that don't. So I don't know. I like you said, bro, I don't know how we're going to get back to it, but the military side of things, if there are military service members out there that are watching this, and you feel the way that I feel about this, just know that you're not alone in that fight, and you don't have to stop fighting for what you believe in. And that oath that you swore to uphold and support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and obey the orders of the President of the United States and the officers appointed above you. All those things that you say, stick to it and be legitimate about it. And your emotional decision making doesn't matter, because you're serving in the greatest armed forces in the entire world, and it's a privilege for you to be able to do that. And you can't disrespect the flag that's on your shoulder and the uniform that you're in. Because I don't think anybody that's listening to your podcast would be on the side of celebrating somebody's death anyway. But just know that if you stand your ground in that regard, you're not in the wrong, and you're not alone.
And I love it now. Today at my house, it's been all Ryan Day. It's been Ryan Day ever since I woke up this morning. I've watched every video that I could find of you. Like I said, I think I found my new favorite song of all time, and I'm so grateful for you. So, take us a little bit back behind, where the song "Burn" came from, where that originated, where No Second Chance, because I believe that, I got run over by a Humvee. It ran my head over, and that's why I'm blind now. But I believe that there, ever since I got through that there is no second chances. That there, I only got today. I only got right now. I don't have tomorrow. I only have today. So what were some of the thought process behind No Second Chance?
Well, so first "Burn," because No Second Chance is one of my more recent songs. We actually dropped 2 songs 2 months in a row. Let's Talk About Heroes and No Second Chance with the music videos on that. But for "Burn," one of the songwriters I used to write with pretty much wrote a lot of my stuff that I've released. His name was Craig Wilson. He passed away a couple of years ago. But "Burn" we had written as essentially a generic military call to arms kind of a song. And I got asked to play the Volunteer Jam with Charlie Daniels in 2015. And I got to sing between Ted Nugent and Michael W. Smith for that, to a sold-out arena. And they were promoting 13-Hour Secret Soldiers of Benghazi at that event. Yep. So John Tigan and Mark Geist, Tig and Oz, as folks know them, were promoting the movie. And I got to meet them backstage and whatnot. And Mark Geist and I started talking at the time. And I said, "Hey, I got a song. How hard would it be for me to I know they were still in the final editing process. How hard would it be to get it in the film?" And he said, "Well, send it to me. I love to listen to it and, see what I can do." So I sent it to him, and he said, that because of the movie, you haven't seen it yet, but because of the movie, there are probably a couple lyrics that need to be changed. If you can make it more about, essentially, if you think about this, the movie's about us fighting for 13 hours overnight against all odds. So at that point, changed the lyric. I rewrote some of the lyrics in it, and then we recorded the song. And then John Tigan got involved in it as well, and recorded the song. Got it to John, and he, I said, I'd really like to get a music video done for this because it really, would be a powerful music video to honor the 4 Benghazi heroes that we lost and my brothers, whatnot. Is there anything you can do to help? He said, well, let me introduce you to Chris, and Chris Peranto, Tonto. He had a much larger social media following, and Chris got involved, and John auctioned off an AK-47, a custom AK-47, that essentially paid for the baseline of the video to get the video done. And Chris got involved, and we really got the funding. I mean, a significant amount of funding from that because it was going to cost us a lot of money. And then John took the song to Paramount, and Paramount gave us authorization to use the trailer clips from the film in the music video. So that's why you see parts of the film that are actually in the music video as well. And so anyway, they gave us authorization and essentially used it as a promotional tool for the film, which was incredible. And so I flew John in, flew Chris in, and Mark Geist wasn't involved in the project at that point. And then so John and Chris were in. I got an all law enforcement, first responder, military family cast that were in there. We had some pretty incredible things that showed up the day before the shooting. The jet that we actually use in the scene where we're going out is the same kind of jet that they flew out of when they flew out back to the United States, where they flew out of in. Anyway, but it was the same exact kind of jet. Didn't look like it, but it was the same kind. And it happened to fly in the day before. So we ended up getting that in there. All the Jeeps that came in from all over the United States. We had some pretty incredible Jeeps in there, and sponsorships that came from that. Tactical Shit filmed the behind the scenes and gave some of the material, the equipment that was in it. Just a great group of folks that helped us put that whole thing together. And that really served as a launching pad because when I released that music video and it started doing really well, I got reached out to by a veterans or Freedom Fest, the promoter of Freedom Fest out in Colorado, and got to work with Jack Russell. I think it was Jack Russell's Great White and several other bands for the first one. And then the second one, Jack Russell's Great White, Warrant, Dokken, I opened up for them. And that's where I got discovered by the Professional Bull Riders in 2016. The CEO of Professional Bull Riders was in the front row, and he loved my backstory and came up and, hand me his card. And that's a long story in itself on how that all went down, which was pretty incredible. Once again, I stood up for what I felt was right in that show. Dokken's manager came on 3 songs into the set. We were supposed to do a live auction in the middle of my show to raise money. It was a veterans event, a nonprofit veterans event, a motorcycle ride. We were raising money for the American Soldier Network, and Dokken's manager came 3 songs into the set on the stage and told my guitar player at the time, actually told Craig, we were done, get off stage, with a couple extra colorful adjectives. And then I was on the front of the stage singing, didn't know it. So I came back and they said, hey, we're done, we got to get off stage. And I said, oh no. And I looked out in the crowd, there's a bunch of bikers at a biker bar, a veterans event, and I'm opening up for 80s rock bands, and I don't ever drop the F-bomb on stage. If there is a potential that kids might be there, whatever it is. But I started dropping F-bombs. My wife was filming, and she pulls it down, and I just said, I'm the only veteran on this bill. I came here to raise money for my brothers and sisters in arms. And Dokken's manager just came on stage and told me to cut my set short when we were about to do a live auction, and I haven't gotten to that yet. I got Mark Geist, who had driven in, a couple hours to watch come to the show and come on stage with me and sing Burn. That was the first show we were actually performing Burn live on stage with. So the CEO came up to me afterwards and said that I love what you stand for. I love your backstory. I love your performance. We'd love to get you involved in it. So that in 2016, Steven Tyler was the headliner for the World Finals at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. And in 2017, I was the headliner. Nobody knew who I was. So you had Steven Tyler, Aerosmith, Steven Tyler was the headliner. Then next year, they had some guy that nobody knew who I was singing to a sold-out arena. My first show in 2018 was Madison Square Garden with them. And we did, over the next 2 years, did a total of 28 arena shows, and they sent me to Australia for shows. So then sometime along that way, I was invited as a quote-unquote celebrity. I don't look at myself that way, but a celebrity to a nonprofit event in South Dakota. And that's where I got to meet my great friend, Tony Ryan. He and I struck up a friendship. He's an amazing human being. And he got cancer, throat cancer, and really, really went through a lot of stuff. I mean, he battled. And essentially, I talked to Tony, and he didn't know whether he was going to live or he was going to die. He was fighting. And I said, Tony, why don't we, cause he did all these kind of like all those things that we did in that music video was what he did. He did either professionally or personally. And I said, why don't we do a music video? And I said, and God forbid this has to be your celebration of life. I hope it isn't. But we were having an honest conversation about where he was. And I said, why don't we do a music video for it? So then we wrote No Second Chance, and essentially wrote No Second Chance in honor of him. So the lyrics that we talk that are in there really are talking about how he came into his success story in life and what he did in life and where he came from and his success story in life, and knowing that he may not make it. That it's about that living life with no second chance, and that I had gone through the loss that I had gone through and trying to incorporate what I had gone through in the way that I perceive life and living it like you've got no second chance. And I don't always get it right. I mean, I don't, but that's really what the song was about. So Tony actually brought me out and he put all this stuff together, arranged it with his friends and the places that like the go-karts we were riding in were his professional go-karts, that I was driving in, he was in, and the airplane that he's flying in was one of his very good friends. Little Big Toot was the name of it. Very good friends. The motocross place that we went to, I didn't actually drive a motorcycle in that because I used to have a motorcycle and I couldn't afford to injure myself. But so we had 2 stunt doubles that actually did all the motocross for us. But the crazy thing is, 3 days before we did that music video, he had a speeding tube taken out. So he actually was eating on his own finally. And, we did that whole music video essentially showing his life and the things that he did just in case it was going to be, his life story and honoring him. And he survived for, I believe it was 8 months after that, and then he passed. And it was heartbreaking, but he was such an advocate for the hero community, not just the veteran community. They say that 98% of the money that goes back to the veteran community and nonprofit causes comes from the veteran community and hero community. Same thing with hero causes. Like our own communities give back to our own 98% of the dollars that are raised. And he was a civilian and never served. And he loved the hero community and gave back immensely to the hero community. And to have him in that music video, just like in Burn, to have my dad's voice at the beginning of Burn, because my dad passed away a couple years ago as well. Those are just invaluable things to me. And trying to have a message that means something in my music. I mean, Crank It, I was looking at that was a fun, Shallow Hal concept video of looking at the beauty inside somebody as opposed to their exterior. That was the message behind that. It was lighthearted, and these were a bit more serious and whatnot, but showing the excitement of the life that he lived in that music video, honoring the Benghazi Fallen and my brothers. And then we did Let's Talk About Heroes, was released at the same time or close to the same time that No Second Chance was released. And in that one, honoring all of the heroes in the hero community. And I wrote that song with Dave Bray and Craig Wilson as well. Dave Bray's a Navy veteran, but he had a song called Last Call that was out. Co-wrote that with him. And it was at a time where the BLM riots and all that stuff were going on, and our heroes were being vilified, where our law enforcement was being vilified, where you were seeing first responders, firefighters, and EMTs getting attacked on the streets, and our military was being disparaged because they were being forced to, guard monuments that were being destroyed, and they had to go into DC, the National Guard, and around the nation to defend from all the riots and everything that was going on. And the song really was, I wanted to talk about hero stories. I wanted them to be honored and not talking about, all the chaos that was going on, how they were being vilified. So that's where Let's Talk About Heroes came in. And the last music video that I came out with, we actually did 2 music videos, was What You Think of Me. So we did a performance music video that was a shortcut. And then we did a editor's clip, essentially, as a director's cut, where it had the long story. And I had that video in my head 10 years prior to, on January 8th, 2014. I wrote co-wrote What You Think of Me in my living room. It was the only song I ever posted after I wrote it on social media, because I didn't think anybody, after I told my story before I actually posted it, would steal it from me. So 10 years to the last day I saw my brother alive, we released the music video on January 4th in 2024. And that music video, I feel, that's the most important song I've ever written, because it's in honor of my brother. Every verse in that is in honor of him. But anybody who's ever lost somebody that they loved can listen to that song and relate. A crazy irony about that one is that the first song that I ever won that I sang in a karaoke competition was Amazed by Lone Star. It was the first time I ever won a karaoke competition. I sang that song. And the founding member of Lone Star, Dean Sams, the keyboard player for Lone Star, actually produced the song for me. And I got to have it. It's kind of, if you listen to it, an homage to Lone Star. And that song, in the first time I ever, which really was what inspired me to go after this. And 10 years later, or excuse me, no, that was 2005 2000. So 24 years later, it came full circle, and I had Dean Sams from Lone Star actually produce that song for me in honor of my brother. So he's in the music video as well, playing piano. His son actually recorded the performance cuts from it, which is really cool to have that passed down in a generation with his son, who wasn't even alive when I first sang that song, first sang Amazed. It was really cool. And to honor my brother in the way that we did, everybody watches it. That storyline is a metaphor to Aaron and I's life. There are a lot of things that are actually in that video of us talking, or the kid that played me in that video. My brother and I used to do that in high school. We always sat in his room and talked to each other after his soccer practice or track practice, whatever it may be. My brother Steve is actually playing my dad in that. There's so many things in that music video that mean the world to me. All of my best friends are in there. Chance Joel, Trey McCampbell, who's been with me for 11 years in my band. He's also my band leader, my production manager, and now my manager. Chance Joel and I became amazing friends. Heath Smith, who is in my other music videos as well. He's the father talking to his son at the beginning. Let's Talk About Heroes. So if anybody ever wants to know, like, what does this mean? What's this mean? What's this mean? Shoot me a message on Instagram, because none of my music videos, there's nothing in my music videos that's trivial. Every single thing that's almost every single shot that was in the What You Think of Me music video, I had in my head for 10 years. I directed that myself. I co-directed it with Scott McClanahan. I take that back, because he directed some of the scenes as well. But every single scene that you see in that video, I had in my head for 10 years. And we finally got to put it out full circle with Dean Sams. So my stories are never short. I'm a songwriter by trade. So anyway, I apologize for being long-winded. Hopefully I didn't lose a bunch of your followers on that one.
Nope, I love it. And now I can't wait to go back and watch them all again. So, as we're winding down, what's coming up in the world of Ryan Weir?
Well, I have the fortunate opportunity. I got invited to play the 250th anniversary Music City Marine Corps Ball. So I'll be doing that. I believe it's on November 1st. Get to play for a bunch of Devil Dogs, which I'm excited about. Being my dad was a Marine, although I wasn't a Marine. Absolutely love all of our service members. We've got some stuff in the works for next year already that I'm excited about. Got a book in the works It's about time that I tell my story in a book. Haven't done that yet. And it's really hard for me because I have an attention span of a gnat sometimes. Thank God that most songwriting sessions are only about 3 hours because I start getting bored real fast. But the book thing is really hard, especially to talk about myself. Plus, we just lost my granny, the matriarch of the family, and a lot of the stories that I'm telling in this book, she's in them, and she was my storyteller, and she would always tell stories about when we were kids, and that kind of, for me, it's like, I don't know if it'd be a cathartic grieving process to get that book out or to get back on writing the book, but I've kind of paused it because, it's, I want to tell the story the right way, and I don't want to tell it just on emotion, because there are a lot of facts in order by timeline that I want to make sure that I get right. There are a lot of people that I care about that are going to be in this book that I want to make sure I tell the story right. And if I'm doing it on a purely emotional level, which I will if I start talking about my granny, I don't think I'm going to get it right. So I'm kind of taking a pause on that. And my co-writer who's on this, Barbara, I'm sorry. Her husband, she's a Gold Star family member as well, but she's co-writing the book with me. And I don't know if she'll get this far in this thing, but I'm sorry, Barbara. You're an amazing, amazing woman for being so patient with me on this. But hopefully we'll get that book out next year, sometime in the spring, maybe. If not, just sometime next year. But got some massive concerts already in the works for next year, which I'm excited about. And I can't wait to announce those massive concerts. So super stoked about that. And to get back on stage, because this year has been a really slow year for shows, which has been weird, but it is what it is. So that's where we're at.
I love it. So where can we find you? How do we support your mission? How do we get in your ecosystem?
RyanWeaver.net is my website. Pretty much has all of my it has all of my socials on it. You can email me from there. Just so everybody knows, Ryan Weaver Country on Instagram, but and I can't remember my Facebook one, but most of my posts on Instagram go to Facebook anyway. If you message me on my social media, I'm the one answering you. I don't have somebody else running my own stuff. So it may take me a little bit of time because I probably get 100 messages a day. I have to sift through all the hate and find the love, if you know what I'm saying. But any of my social media pages, you want to connect with me directly. If there's anybody that's listening to this, all of my music videos have been essentially fan funded and crowd funded. They're expensive. They're really expensive. And we've got something massive in the works right now to honor Charlie. If anybody's interested in being an angel contributor, a sponsor for a music video to honor Charlie, we're going to record a song for him as well. 100% of the proceeds are going to go to TPUSA. I'm not going to make a dime off that song. As far as the digital downloads, all that kind of stuff, even streaming platforms that we're going to be on, we're going to give it all to TPUSA. Carry on Charlie's the video powerful, and my hopes are that we can get some folks out there who want to be angel donors so we can get this thing funded, because they are expensive to do. And just reach out to me and I'll let you know if you want to be involved in the music video, if you want to be part of it, if you want to be there to see us shoot it. We've always opened that opportunity up to sponsors. And we hope that we can find some folks out there who really want to get involved in a project that I'm just telling you, the song is incredibly powerful. My brother Heath Smith wrote it. I'm co-writing, massaging some lyrics and co-writing a bit with him. We've got some amazing people involved in this, and you'll be proud of this project when we get done with it. It really, really is going to be an amazing, amazing video. I think probably one of the most powerful music videos because it's not about my story this time. It's not about something that I've directly, it's about Charlie, and it's about his mission. It's about everything that we believe is right, and trying to make sure that we carry that torch for him, if you know what I'm saying.
I love it. So guys, make sure you check him out. Make sure you check out his YouTube channel. All his videos are amazing. Now I'm going to have to go back and watch every one of them to get all the detail now that I know the backstory. Brother, I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you, Aaron Hale, Guys, if you don't know who Aaron Hale is, you definitely need to check out Aaron Hale, Point of Impact podcast. Check him out. Thank you, Celsius Energy, for keeping me going. I appreciate you. Brother, I just want to say I'm so grateful and humble for your friendship, and I just want to let you know that I love and I appreciate you.
Likewise, brother. Absolutely likewise.
All right, guys, as you know, as way I end the show all the time, I'm a big Joel Osteen guy, and something that he says is every day we wake up, we have a choice. We can become a victim or we could be a victor of our present and our future. So, guys, if you listen to the show, you're no longer victims of your past. You're victors of your present and your future. Thank you guys for always showing up. And remember that vertical momentum, the only way to go is up. I love you guys. Have a great week. Ryan, my brother, have an awesome week. Keep kicking ass.
You too, brother. You too. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm honored.
It's been my honor, my friend.
Right on.
Hey, my brother.